Welcome to another episode of Dad Up, everyone. Thank you guys very much for joining me. The guest I have on has quite a journey, and I'm really excited to kind of dive into it, learn a little bit more about him. He and I have just gotten a chance to connect, and his story is pretty amazing, and I'm really excited for him to share it. But my good friend Johnny Muresan is joining me on Dad Up. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, I appreciate you having me. Honored.
Yeah, awesome. Just kind of doing a little bit of research on you. You've had quite the experience through your own personal journey, and
Yeah,
I think it can be parenting related, but it's health related and all that. But for my listeners, viewers who don't know who you are, let's talk a little bit about how you grew up, and then obviously how you got into what you're doing now, and then
yeah,
obviously this is a dad podcast, so I want to know about your family as well.
100%. Yeah, all wrapped together. Yeah, so I'm the youngest of nine. Immigrant family. We escaped communism in the late 80s to Canada. So I grew up. I'm the youngest. Ironically, the only one who's ever been really overweight, and I was also the most active one out of all of us. So I was kind of always a bigger guy. It wasn't until I kind of stopped playing football when I was 30 or when I was 22. I opened up a business, kind of worked and spent all my time working. Um, then kind of just over a long period of time, just I kept getting a little bit heavier, a little bit heavier. And then about 4 years, just around COVID time, I had torn my meniscus working. I'm a tile installer by trade. So tore my meniscus, stopped going to the gym, put on 150 pounds, ended up at 500 pound. Uh, Not very mobile, in constant pain all the time. Uh, and that's kind of where this whole health journey starts. I started at, so it was 497 pounds was where I topped out the scales, still installing tile on my knees, basically one knee up, one knee down on the ground, in constant pain, working 10, 12-hour days, 7 days a week. And then really, I got so sick of it. Like I just kind of had given up all hope. I never thought that I was going to change. I thought I would just keep progressing till eventually I was just not around anymore. At the time, I had two daughters. So I eventually one day I kind of just realized that all of the work that I was doing, I'm a young immigrant, kid from an immigrant family. I wanted to provide my kids with opportunities that I never had, and I always in my own brain thought that was financial opportunities. So financially we were doing well, brand new house, car paid off, we were going on vacations. But I, as a person, was getting progressively worse and worse and worse. And I was really creating this future that I wasn't going to be a part of for long. It wasn't a matter of when, I would basically eat myself to death. It was a matter of if. It was a matter of when. So one day I realized that I was being very selfish with this sacrificial perspective that I had, where I was going to, basically sacrifice myself for the good of my family. And I realized that that was a very selfish perspective. I wanted to validate myself through that, and I started thinking about what my kids needed, and the belief that they had in me. And I really just I call it adopting, like I call it borrowing belief. I had no belief in myself, but I borrowed theirs, and I borrowed their opinion of who they thought I was, and kind of just started to become that person.
Hmm. And how old
Yeah.
are your kids?
So I have a 7-year-old daughter, a 4-year-old daughter, and then a 5-month-old son.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I'm curious, just out of complete curiosity, because
Yeah.
I've never been that heavy.
Yep.
But I'll tell you my own journey. But I was just curious as far as when you reached your peak, what did your daily diet consist of?
Oh, my daily diet was like I'm eating out 3 times, sometimes 4 times per day. Like I was basically as far the extreme as you can go on one end. There'd be weeks where I wouldn't eat anything that came from my own house. Like it was just eating out. I was working 12 hours a day and basically living and eating out of my truck every single meal. So it was, typical North American diet. I was eating, you know, uh, donuts or a bagel and coffee in the morning. I was eating fast food for lunch, fast food for dinner, and then usually late night I was ordering pizza, and that was pretty consistent.
Wow.
Yeah,
And I mean, I can imagine when you're eating like that, working the hours that you're working,
yeah,
you couldn't have felt good.
yeah. I didn't feel good. I always felt. Actually, my wife laughs because for like the first 4 years of marriage, I'm like aren't you supposed to have stomach aches like 5, 6 times a week? She's like, no, that's not actually normal. Um, but no, I didn't feel good, but I was like, let's slam coffee and energy drinks and push my body just to kind of get through the day. And I really didn't live for any way that I was feeling at the time. I was just basically lived and said, I'm sacrificing myself for in my own way. I thought I was sacrificing myself and what I felt good in order to provide for my family.
Yeah, and I can imagine when you made that mental shift that part of it consisted of, you had talked about it not knowing how long you were going to be around,
Yeah.
and I can imagine, you not being there to walk your daughters down the aisle.
100%. I actually, a couple of years ago, I went to counseling and I was like, I don't think I'm going to live till 40. And he's like, I don't give you till 35.
Mm.
Like, I'm working 80 hours a week, sleeping 1 to 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours on average every night. Couldn't sleep. And I was just eating myself into an early grave. Basically, you know, as at the very worst time it got, I was getting weird feelings in my chest and all that kind of scary stuff that I was just ignoring. And so it was my days were numbered for sure.
What, when did your journey, as far as you deciding that's it, I'm gonna start taking care of myself? How long ago was that, and where are you at now as far as weight wise?
Yeah. So I was my heaviest in December 4th of 2022. So just under 3 years ago. I was 497 pounds. And that's the day I was like, you know what? Here, I had a torn meniscus at the time, wasn't walking very well, in ton of pain. And I said, today's the day where I'm going to start kind of clawing my way back. So now I'm currently 323 pounds as of this week's weigh in. So I've
Awesome.
dropped about 174 pounds.
That's awesome. That
Yeah.
that is awesome.
Yeah.
Super, super. I mean, I can imagine you can feel it. You can feel it in yourself that just the difference.
I feel like a whole different, like that feels like me. The old self feels exactly like me, but also like a distant stranger at the exact same time. Like I can remember what it felt like, but it also feels so far gone from what I feel like now. Now I know actually what it's like to feel good. I
Right.
never really knew that before.
And you got into running.
Yeah. So I got into running last January 2023. I had dropped some weight. I had started to rehab my knee and I kind of started to feel good. I was 405 pounds at the time. And I knew I had made some good momentum but there was really a lot of the underlining issues. I mean, when you get to 500 pounds, you don't do it without having a very serious food addiction. Right. So I sat there and I thought of like, what is uh the thing that nobody thinks, including myself, that somebody at 405 pounds can do. I'm like, I'm gonna run a marathon. Like I couldn't run for more than a few, 30 seconds at the time. But I'm like, I'm gonna give myself 1 year and I'm gonna train and I'm gonna focus on this and run a marathon. That's how I got into running. Yeah.
And
And 1 year plus 1 day, I ended up running a marathon in Hawaii, which ironically is 2 years before that was when I was completely at my worst, at my heaviest. I had just a month before that saying I need to fix this, and I remember going to Hawaii in January of 2023 and just being like broken and hurting and having a really hard time. And so I thought of what a great place to kind of go and run my marathon. I was 300. So I ran my first marathon at 360 pounds the January that just passed.
how many have you ran since?
So I haven't done another full since. I've done some high rocks as I've cut some weight. I'm actually running the New York City Marathon, the Honolulu Marathon, and I'm running the Detroit Free Press half coming up. That's kind of my hometown race. So I kind of spent after that marathon, I spent some time cutting some weight because for me it's just longer and harder, and be getting better at this running thing. Just took a little bit of an off season, cut some more weight, and then and now I got kind of a whole lineup of races.
Cool. What was your time in Hawaii for your first marathon?
I believe it was I just made the cutoff time. I was like 7.5 hours, so I was on pace, as you know from being a runner. I was like, cool, I'm on pace for a 6 hour and 5 minute marathon or something like that. And then I got absolutely smoked by elevation was all the end of the hill thing. My fueling plan went to trash and I barely made it out of that one for sure. There was some scary parts at the end where I thought maybe I'll jump in, into an ambulance or something like that. But I survived it, finished it, got the medal, and lived to
Well,
tell the
good for you,
story.
man. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Good for you.
yeah,
Yeah, Hawaii Marathon's not an easy one to do,
yeah.
and so that's good, man. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Did I read somewhere you ran an ultra marathon?
Yeah, so I ran. What we did was in June, I had kind of been doing some weight cut, and a couple of my buddies decided for a really good cause. For a girl by the name of Callie who's got a rare genetic deficiency, they're going to run across the state of Tennessee. And I was like, I mean, I haven't run more than 6 miles in a sitting in like 4 months, but I could come and kind of my social media had grown a little bit, so it's kind of going to help bring some exposure to the story. And so I packed my bags and tried to run across the state of Tennessee, which is 175 miles. Um, I ended up doing 31 miles the first day. So got my first ultra kind of badge there. And then kind of started chipping away at miles. I only ended up making 82 of the miles. I ended up in an ER in Tennessee, making sure I didn't have blood clot, lost some nerves in my feet because my body wasn't ready for something like that. But it was a cool experience. So yeah, technically I knocked that one off the belt.
Awesome. 31 miles. Yep. Anything longer than a marathon, for those of you that don't know, marathon's 26.2, and technically an ultra marathon is anything longer than 26.2. So
Yeah,
31 miles certainly qualifies as the as an ultra marathon. So good for
yeah.
you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I started my own journey 2 years ago. I was my heaviest was nowhere near what you were, but my heaviest
Mhm.
was 262 pounds. And
Yeah,
I had been a runner for 20 years.
yeah.
And I thought, hey, out here in California, we have the Big Bear Marathon. And I thought, hey, I haven't ran a marathon in quite a few years. So I think I'm going to try for the Big Bear Marathon. Well, I was at my heaviest at that time, and I did some training and all that. Um, but that marathon killed me. It was tough, even though a lot of it was downhill. I
Mhm.
was struggling, and I realized, you know what? I need to drop some weight in
Yeah,
order to be able to really be more successful at these marathons. And so I went on this journey of a lot of cardio, a lot of running,
yeah.
and obviously watching my diet and all that.
Mm.
And since that time, I've dropped 100 pounds.
Wow,
And
good for you.
yeah, this year I've ran 7 marathons.
Awesome.
If you include the training that I did for my ultra marathon, I did an ultra marathon in San Francisco at the end of July that was 52.4 miles. It was two marathons back to back
Wow.
that we had to do. And we started off at 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday night, ran all through the night, the first marathon, and then picked up the San Francisco Marathon the next day and ran the
Oh,
San Francisco Marathon.
that's a
Um,
tough marathon too to do on the
yeah,
back half.
yeah, it was tough. It was a tough marathon, but we wanted to do it under 12 hours, and we did. My buddy and I, we did it under 12 hours.
That's awesome.
We were pretty stoked. So now I've got my ultra marathon notch in my belt, and I'll never do another one. Just the training alone. I mean, shoot, I had to run 3 marathons. That's why I said I ran 7 marathons this year. I had to run 3 marathons just in the training. So
Yeah.
my longest run to train for that was 37. Then I had to do a 31 training run, and then I had to do a 26 mile training run. So three of my training runs were technically marathons or ultra marathons. And so yeah, it was insane. But I ran Phoenix this year. I ran Salt Lake City Marathon this year. Obviously the San Francisco Ultra Marathon. I've
Mm.
got another marathon coming up in a couple weeks, the St. George, Utah Marathon,
Okay.
October 4th. November, I'm doing my first triathlon. It's an Olympic triathlon I'm doing in November. And
Nice.
then in December, I have another Phoenix Marathon in Arizona.
Nice.
So yeah, once I once I get through these, then I'm going to slow down a little bit for next year because it was a lot this year. It's just a
Yeah.
lot of commitment and
The time
training.
commitment's insane.
Yeah, the time commitments, the training, just
Yeah.
getting my mind wrapped around having to do all the training. But I wanted to ask you, from going from 500 pounds essentially to completing an ultra marathon, what do you think was the single hardest mind shift you had to make at the very beginning of your journey?
The by far the biggest thing for me was the ego. As funny as it sounds, like I'm a guy. I've spent a decade and a half in a gym. I've squatted 640 pounds. I've bench pressed over 450 pounds, and so like for me, I'm very comfortable in the gym. So like when I was 400 pounds going and squatting 640, I mean your ego doesn't take a hit. But now you're asking me. I'm asking myself to do something that really it makes me very vulnerable and something that I know that I'm awful and I struggle at. And so that was the biggest mindset thing that I had to get over was putting myself in a position where I know that I'm vulnerable. I know that this is not feed my ego. And funny enough has become like a big staple in my life. I keep looking for opportunities to be humbled. I keep looking for opportunities to not be the best person in a certain area in the room. And the funny thing is, it's kind of elevated me. I mean, you humble yourself and you elevate yourself, you'll be humbled. You humble yourself and you'll be elevated, right? So that's kind of what biggest mindset shift I've done for sure.
Yeah, ego's big. I mean, put your ego aside. In anything we do, especially in parenting, you got to put your ego aside as well.
Yeah.
And when I think about as far as you've come, what has been the most rewarding story or message that you've received from someone who has kind of followed your footsteps?
Um, there's been a handful of them, but really just some. I get messages all the time, and I couldn't, I could pinpoint. One lady kind of said, that, me and my husband sent me a photo, and me and my husband used to be runners, and he passed away, and I haven't been able to get out. And I watched one of your videos, and I kind of got out today for the first time, and I felt very, bad about myself, but I got out today because I watched a video that if you can do it, then I have. And there's hundreds. I almost have like a unfair just stockpile of motivational things if I'm feeling self-deprecating on myself. I can go back and look at where people just say, listen, you're helping with your story, to not only have somebody encourage put their shoes on, but it's like people have really told me that it's kind of helped them take back their lives. And so that has been awesome, but the biggest thing has kind of been in my own house. Like if you look at the trajectory of the family and where we were 3 years ago. I don't know how real, I'm a very real guy. I don't know how real you want me to get here. But when I was in Hawaii 3 years ago, I had made the decision that's kind of it for our marriage, and our family, was going to split up. And I was 500, almost 500 pounds at the time. And now my wife, we are absolute ride or dies. We fixed a lot of our issues. We repaired our relationship. We're best friends. I have a son that never would have existed had I not taken the opportunity to like really put myself aside and really start to change. So it's really inside my own house has been the biggest kind of trajectory shift than anybody else.
And through the eyes of your daughters. I mean, your daughters seeing you and seeing the transition that you're going through has got to be pretty rewarding in itself.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and I've kind of made it a point to talk to my kids about being real and saying like because my oldest daughter's 7. She's kind of just starting to kind of notice people's bodies are different, and you can kind of see the wheels turning when she's kind of looking at my body and looking at some other bodies. And I'm like, it's okay to talk about how dad has a bigger body and dad's getting healthier and stuff like that. And my kids, like, if you see the difference that they have, like, my wife sent me a video when I wasn't home the one day, and my daughters are riding their bikes, and they're just yelling like, we're going to the park. We really don't want to, but like we can do hard things. Just like dad said, we started it and now we're going to finish it because we can do it. And that kind of mentality has kind of like just echoed in our house now. My wife is running my wife never ran more than a couple kilometers, and she's 5 months postpartum, and she's doing her first half marathon in like 3 weeks. So it's really like, it's been awesome to kind of spearhead the change there, and everybody else, like it really trickled down to everybody else.
And when you do those races, you got to get your daughters in those little 1 mile or 1K races that they do for kids.
they did their very first one. So my very first 5K race last year, they ran as their very first race this year, which was awesome. And now they're talking about joining me on 5Ks and marathon. I'm sorry, they ran a mile, but they're joining me on 5Ks. They want to do all that stuff. They want to run marathon. That's all they talk about.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah,
we'll, um, uh, we'll, we'll see how long it lasts, but my
yeah,
boys were the same way. When I first started 20 years, my boys are 26 and 23 now. When I started 20 years ago, they were the same way. It was like they wanted to do the little kid races,
yeah,
and they would go all out, just go all out. And you know how kids are, they don't know how to gauge their own speed, so they just
yeah,
go.
yeah.
And yeah, they did a lot of those as kids as they were growing up. But as they got a little older, they're like, yeah, running's not quite for me. Even though they played basketball their whole lives, they're like, yeah,
Yeah,
no, running's not quite for me.
it's a different type
But
of running.
right, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I want to ask you, as a dad, how has your transformation influenced the way that you teach your kids about health and perseverance and believing in themselves?
Yeah, so the probably one of the main things is I've just learned to be adaptable. I've learned to, I know one thing. I've learned I've changed what my mindset or my mentality or what I believed about fitness about 30 times since I started this journey. Right. So when I was younger, it was like, hey, let's, feed the ego, let's get this biggest and strongest. I was a football player, all that kind of stuff. And now it's just like I've learned to use fitness to really set up whatever kind of life that I want to have. I would always say, if you asked me 3 years ago, even if you asked me 5 years ago before I tore my knee, hey, what do you want out of fitness and out of your body? Oh, I want to run around, chase my kids, and have the energy. But then I'm going to the gym for 3 hours a day and lifting, trying to be a power lifter, and then not having the energy, and being crippled when I came home. So what I want is I want them to just fall in love with health and just moving their bodies for the sake of just trying to find something that they enjoy that gets them healthy. The biggest thing that obviously we're trying to break is the cycles that I kind of grew up in, which was obviously food addiction and knowing that, like, you'll never be able to outwork a bad diet. Like, I tried for many, many years to do it. It's impossible.
Mhm.
And so really just trying to get them to not see workout as a punishment or as a calorie, something to burn calories, but really just as a way to just celebrate that your body can move, get stronger, become better. And that's something that I still struggle with. If I have days where I don't exercise, I'm like, oh, I need to burn more calories. When really, I started kind of viewing them as separate, right? In the kitchen, losing weight is one thing, and then I go work out, to build strength, to get healthy, cardiovascular health, all that kind of stuff. So I want them to fall in love with health for the sake of being better and not necessarily, trying to punish themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I look at when I go running, I look at it as it's not obviously not a punishment. Trust me, there are days when I get up in the morning and I just don't feel like going running, but I know that especially when I have things that I'm signed up for, like these
Yeah.
marathons, I know I've got to get up and go. And I know once I get up and start moving and get myself out the door, I'm good to go. But
Yep.
when I'm in that environment where it's just me and my music, um, I it's not a workout to me.
Yeah.
It's almost relaxing.
Mm.
And
I
it's
haven't gotten
just
to that point yet.
yeah, well, for me it's
Yeah.
relaxing. And
Yeah.
sometimes, I'll be stressed out, had a long day or whatever, and I'll be just kind of grumpy. And my wife will even say to me, she'll say, "You need to go for a run." Because it
Yeah.
just helps me relax. It just
Yeah.
kind of cools me down and chills me out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I think the kids watching you do that and knowing that you're not there to punish yourself, you're there to take care of yourself,
Mhm.
is a good way to be a good role model for your daughters, and hopefully they don't follow the same patterns as far as the old pattern that you were in.
For
Hopefully they
sure.
don't follow that same way. What's your goal?
So I always say I don't have like a weight goal. I'll probably realistically end up around the 240, 250 mark. I'm a bigger guy. I got like, even at 330 pounds, you'll see me doing like handstand push-ups and body weight dips. Like, there's a lot of muscle mass on me. So, um, I'll probably end up around 250. But my goal is to just do as many things as my body will allow on the way down. My goal is just to, to really, I've always felt like the bridge between the athletic and the overweight. I played every sport growing up, although I did it as a more overweight guy. So I just want to just focus on what can my body do while I'm making it better. What can I accomplish today? I don't want to wait till I look a certain way or act a certain way in order to get into these things. I want to be able to, kind of prove to myself and other people around me that I can do it where I'm at now, all while chasing a better version of myself.
Right. And you said that you have a couple marathons that you're going to be doing.
Yep.
What's the next one you're going to be doing?
So the next marathon, I'm running a high rocks in Boston next week, but I'm doing the New York. I'm doing a half in Detroit, which is at the end of October, and then I'm doing the New York City full marathon November 2nd.
Okay. And how's the training going?
It's going good. I actually just found out about a week and a half ago that I was running the New York. So I was training for a half marathon a week before that, and then I found that I was running the New York marathon. So it's kind of just got to kick it up into gear a little bit and get as many
Did
miles as I possibly can.
did you get in a lottery?
No, I got in with a brand that I work with, called me and said, "Hey, we have a bid." Like, I'm not obviously qualifying for New York normally, but and it's like I said, I didn't sign up for it. They just said, "Hey, we have a bid and we want you to run it." I said, "I can't pass up the opportunity to do New York City Marathon."
No,
There's
of
people who
course
try to
you.
get in that thing for years.
Yeah, I've been trying to get in for the last 3 years. I
Yeah,
haven't gotten in
and
yet.
somehow I got in. Yeah,
I'm jealous. You have to let me know how it goes.
I will for sure.
Parenting often means leading by example. Obviously, you're
Yep.
doing that. What's one lesson that you hope your children take away from watching you chase goals like the ultra marathon?
Yeah. So I'm hoping that my kids uh, understand what the purpose of suffering is. So like, sounds crazy, but um, even at 500 pounds, like that was a suffering that I caused myself. But suffering produces perseverance, and that's why I want run races. Is because if I can manufacture suffering, then I can produce more perseverance. So I want my kids to be, although it's very hard to do, I want my kids to, when they go through stuff, when life hits them, when they make some choices that aren't necessarily the best, and they end up, getting hurt or it causing pain. I really want them to learn how to not waste that pain, to learn to use that to kind of become better versions, and to really even just, if I got through this, then I can get through something else. So that's kind of what I want my kids to develop from that.
Oh, that's awesome. I think they will, as long as you keep the journey up that the path that you're going down right now. I think as long as you keep that up, leading by example. Sometimes it's just they see everything that we do.
Yep.
They typically will emulate anything that we do. So if you're sitting down eating Twinkies at night, watching TV, they're going to think that's the norm, and
Oh yeah.
they're eventually. But if they see you working out, taking care of yourself, going for runs, that's going to really encourage them in a different way to do their own. Like you said, they were riding their bikes and they challenged themselves that they could do it, get to a certain
Yep.
distance, and so that's because they're seeing you. So just remember that. I mean, I've been around the block when it comes to raising kids, and I know firsthand that anything that we do, they see and they remember.
Yep.
So make sure you keep that up.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I heard a quote that I've kind of just fell in love with. I don't even know who said it, about 6 months ago, but it's, the strength of a dad doesn't come in his authority, it comes in his example. And I've taken that and just run with it. Like I have this picture. It's actually funny. I have this picture a few years ago where I'm like lying on my stomach watching a movie. Pizza's on the I'm on the bed. There's a pizza right beside me, and my daughter is lying on top of me watching that same movie with the pizza right beside me. And that's kind of like my picture of like, they're going to catch everything that I do. And so, kind of, full circle, now that same daughter is running with me. We have two treadmills side by side downstairs and running beside me on the treadmill. And that's kind of what changed everything for me, is just whatever I choose to not attack and fight and break generationally, I'm gift wrapping to my kids. So that's kind of where I've been running with all that stuff. So
Yeah. How do you keep your kids from wanting to uh, eat bad foods? I mean, we can't necessarily, keep them from eating bad foods all the time? I mean, there's going to be those treats and all those kinds of things. How do you and your wife manage that?
I mean, we that's something that we deal with on an ongoing basis. I mean, we have some treats in our house. I just make sure I don't have everything accessible all the time. We used to just give our kids treats to just kind of make them happy, and it made me happy to see them happy. But now I just we basically we try not to tell like this is bad food and this is good food. It's like food has a job. And if you want to eat pasta, then we're eating pasta before gymnastics, before you're going to need that energy. And we kind of have taught our kids what protein is and what carbs do and that kind of stuff. And and obviously, I give my kid a balanced meal, or I give them Sour Patch Kids. They're picking Sour Patch Kids every single time. So I just try to not emulate that. Like I try to not make that as an example. But I also don't want to demonize food to my kids because it's ingrained in me that everything is terrible, right? So we let them have treats. We just make sure that they're not having treats every other meal or just having unlimited access to it. So
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And I think when I think about that, listen, many parents, they struggle with showing up for their kids while also taking care of themselves. How
yeah.
has prioritizing your health impacted the way that you show up as a father?
So I used to view taking care of myself as like a selfish act. That's why I never did it. I used to think if I took time to take care of myself, then I was just taking time away from them. Now I realize that if I love myself and I treat myself with respect and I do the things that I need to do, then first and foremost, I'm showing an example of them that they're worth loving themselves. And then B, I mean, there's a whole slew of lists, right? Like, I got more energy. I feel better. I'm not in constant pain all the time. I'm in better mood, all that kind of stuff. But really, taking care of me was the selfless act that I wanted to be around for as long as possible. Because what my kids need is they need dad 30 years down the line. They don't need dad to be the most fun Disney World going dad until he's 34 and then he's exiting kind of thing. So
Yeah, but how do you balance your time? I mean, it's really hard to find that balance, but how do you balance the time between your own personal health and then also being present for your kids?
I try to include my kids in as much of physical activity as we can. So we have a gym at the house. We actually also recently started homeschooling our kids, so our kids are around a little bit more, and we can be around more physical activity. But this is something I struggle with. I work 80 hours a week still, so I typically don't balance it well. I just lose a bunch of sleep. And because I work 40 hours in the middle of the night and 40 hours during the day every single week. So I typically will just not sleep during the day and kind of I just haven't found a way to balance that properly. But I just try to take as much opportunity to bring my kids along, or rather than me going in the gym 6 days a week and feeding my ego and pumping weights, I will go and I'll do something like jump on the trampoline with them for 45 minutes in their world and just kind of move in a way where I'm actually getting some really good activity out of it.
Yeah. Well, it's important to make sure you're balancing that time with your kids.
Yeah.
Like I always say, kids spell love Time. So it's the amount
Yeah.
of time that you're spending with your kids is what really matters. So not saying for you to cut out your workouts, your
Yeah.
routines, all that kind of stuff, but like taking the extra time, even if it means getting up a little bit earlier in the morning so you can get that
Yeah.
workout in before everybody else gets up. That's what I do. I go for a run at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
and that way I'm done by, depending on how long my run is, that way I'm done by like 7 or 8, and I'm up and I'm available for, the family for whatever they need. So,
Yeah, ours is
that's
like 7:30. Kids go to bed. That's when I'm lifting. Saturday mornings
okay.
when they're at dance, that's when we're doing. That's when I'm doing my long run. So if they're home, I'm trying not to just be gone and working out.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you, what advice would you give to dads who feel like they're too far gone to make any change, but want to be healthier role models for their kids?
I would say you don't necessarily have to believe in yourself. You can borrow belief from somebody else until you find your own. So, like, my kids thought I was Superman when I was 500 pounds. My wife thought I was worth, loving when I was overweight. My kids thought I was worth loving. They didn't care at that point what I looked like or what I felt like. They just wanted me around, right? So I learned to look through their perspective because I didn't love myself. I didn't believe myself. I never thought I would ever come back from rock bottom. I literally, at one point on purpose, was trying to eat myself into an early grave. And so I just borrowed it from them. And then little tiny wins. I just say go get some easy wins. 10-minute walk is pretty attainable for most people. Like tell yourself you're going to do a 10-minute walk because then you can keep your word to yourself. If you tell yourself you're going to work out every single day this week at 3:30 in the morning, it's a really hard thing to hold on to. And so I just stacked as many wins as possible in the win column. And then eventually that just becomes a belief that you build. I don't think you find a belief. I think you build it.
Yeah, it takes work, it takes practice, but starting with the, small steps turns into bigger steps and eventually turns into much more bigger things that you can accomplish. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, my running 20 years ago started just that way. I wanted to get into shape. I knew I was out of shape and just said, you know what, I'm just going to try to go for a little half mile. And
Yeah.
I couldn't even make it a half mile. I just said, you know what, if I have to walk, I'll walk, but I'm going to do a half mile. And I started doing that over weeks of building up. And then I thought how I did it was there was a local running club that was running and working out and stuff. And so I joined that running club, and that they were the ones that trained me for my first marathon. And
Nice.
and it's been my story ever since. So
That's awesome.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm proud of you, man. Keep up the good work.
Appreciate it.
What you're doing is amazing. And don't give up on yourself, because you give up on yourself, you're giving up on your family. So don't do those things. And obviously, if you have questions about running and all that kind of stuff, obviously, as I told you, I'm a certified running coach. So I can always give you some advice or help you out, let you know if there's anything you need to change, any of those sorts of things. But before we close, I wanted to give you an opportunity to let my listeners or viewers know best places for them to reach you, look you up, learn a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so I go by Johnny Goes Running on Instagram. Same thing, kind of on YouTube. That's kind of where primarily you'll see kind of me posting a bunch of my running, but most of my stuff is kind of transformational content. It's kind of mentality stuff, and I actually just wrote a book that's getting released in the next couple weeks about how to show up at the start line, whether that's running or in your business or whatever. But just showing up in places where you don't feel like you belong, taking up space, and then how to mentally get into that. So that's kind of where you'll learn a little bit about me.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Johnny, for being on. I appreciate it. It's good to meet you, and I'm looking forward to not only following your journey, but also staying in touch with you. And if for whatever reason you're ever I'm in California, so if you're ever in the California area and wanting to run a marathon or something, let me know. We can run one together.
I would love that. That's awesome. Appreciate you having me
Awesome.
on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, guys, it's been another episode of Dad Up. I want to thank my good friend Johnny Murison.
Mirason. Yeah, that
Murison. I
works.
said
Yeah,
it
yeah,
right. Johnny
yeah.
Murison, for being on my show. Make sure you check out his Instagram and YouTube. It's all in the show notes below, so you don't miss any of that. So make sure you subscribe and follow him, and just watch his journey, because what he's doing is amazing, and he's an inspiration to many. And I'm sure he would be an inspiration to you as well. And listen, if you are not yet subscribed to my show, please make sure you do that so you don't miss any of the awesome guests that I have on each and every week. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all in the next episode of Dad Up. Wow, another amazing episode in the books. So much was shared, and I'm truly grateful my guest was able to pour into you to help you elevate your dad game and really dad up. Make sure you bang that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're here, please don't forget to leave me a rating and a review. I always appreciate the feedback. And one last thing, don't forget, your role as a dad is one of the most important roles you have. So if you need a little help or have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at daduptribe.com or at my Instagram page at Dad Up Podcast. Until next time, everyone, Dad Up.